Hey D&D fam, I'm Quick.
And I'm Lee, and you're listening to
Divas and Ducats. So what is a diva? I think divas get a bad rep, but to me, diva is all about the attitude.
As for ducats, it's your finances, your assets, Skrilla, guap, your coin. We're talking all things with the potential to affect your pockets.
And while we're attorneys by trade, we are divas by choice. Divas and Ducats is for edutainment purposes.
Y'all, we are not Series 511 or 703 professionals. This does not create a financial advisor or attorney-client relationship. The views expressed here are solely our opinions and the opinions of our guests.
It's just our opinion, y'all. Okay, divas, let's talk ducats.
Hey D&D fam, welcome back. We're excited to have you. If you are if you're watching, subscribe below. That's what I meant. And if you are listening, make sure you go to divasandducats.com. Follow us on IG and Facebook for updates on all the things. So on today's Diva Docket, we are talking about protecting your things. Divorce. Yeah. Unfortunately, it might have gone down a little bit, but about almost 50% it's a 50-50 shot. So just making sure while you're happy that you are protecting things so that you don't fight about them in the unfortunate event that you don't make it with your spouse.
Yeah, because so we talked about protecting, your assets kind of before you pass away for when you pass away.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize the impact of divorce on your assets. So many people, I've talked to a few males actually, and they're just like, they had to completely restart their life, right? So there are ways that you can protect those assets. I do think for me, it has to be a caveat said that I feel that this is a very impactful podcast for people in their late 20s and up, right? So I don't feel that this is necessarily the situation. If y'all 18 coming out of high school and building everything together, I think that's a very different, scenario because you don't have the assets going in unless, you're coming from a trust fund. But for the average person, if you're falling in love and coming out with your high school sweetheart or your college sweetheart, even you're building the majority of everything you have together, right? So, for me, I think this is just really important for, a lot of people are getting married later in life. It's not even really the thing anymore to, get married at 18 years old.
No,
so,
it's true.
Yeah,
not really common anymore.
It's not common anymore. So that I just wanted to put that out there, to give a basis to our audience.
Okay. She was level setting, as we say. Okay.
Yeah. So we have brought in a SME to talk about this. And we have Attorney Rasheda Jiles Sanders. And she is my line sister. And she's so amazing and knows her stuff. So we're going to have her introduce herself and get on into this topic.
Hi, my name is Attorney Rasheda Sanders. I am the owner and managing attorney of the Sanders Law Firm. We have a new office located at 3124 West Boulevard. It's on our side of town, in between Billy Graham Parkway and West Boulevard. And, lawyers have a reputation. So I'm a general practitioner, which means when my clients, they really trust me. And as I've developed my practice, they come to me for one issue and then they ask me about another issue. So as a general practitioner, I handle a wide array of issues, civil litigation, accidents, traffic tickets, family law. That has been family law in the States that has really been a hot topic recently. Yeah. And then also I've expanded my practice to include immigration. Yeah. So that's an overview.
Very exciting. That is a wide breadth of things in the law. Good Lord. So you probably tired. And if y'all don't know, you should go back in our previous episodes, we actually had Rasheda and her husband on talking about business in Bay. This is not the only thing that she does. But go back and listen to that episode if you want to hear about how, going into a business with your spouse or significant other and how they did it successfully. So, so on a flip from the successful marriage and business, we're going to talk about divorce today.
Here we are.
When it's not so successful. So tell us how you got, because you just said you are a general practitioner. How did you add this area of the law to your practice?
Family law encompasses a wide array of topics, child custody, and unfortunately, divorce and separation. Yeah. So part of my practice, it includes preparation, which is a prenuptial agreement. We'll talk about that later, as well as separation agreements, what happens in the time between the time before when you choose to separate until there's a final divorce decree. In North Carolina, you have to be separated for 1 year before you can file for a divorce. And then what happens after your divorce, making sure that North Carolina is also an equitable distribution state, which we'll talk about that later. But it just kind of snowballed once. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So let's talk about what that means. Equitable distribution. I think people hear the term and don't necessarily know what it means when they think about California and community property.
Yes.
So just kind of break down in its simplest form what those differences are.
Right. So in some states, basically, if you're married, everything is split 50-50. Well, in North Carolina, we follow equitable distribution laws, which basically means that it might not be equal. It means that it's going to be equitable. So equitable means fair. So the judge makes the decision as to how property is distributed based upon several factors. Okay. So that's kind of a summation.
So I think, to Quick's point, when she started with her level set, people are getting married a little older. Most people are not, maybe before mid-20s, they're not really doing that. And so 9 times out of 10, you may have a little something. You may have a little something stashed away, or a home, or things like that. So kind of talk about, what is the difference between just, this is Quick's stuff, and this is our stuff.
Right. So as you all just stated, a lot of young professionals, they come in with portfolio, whether they be property, assets. And another way is also inheritance. So people inherit properties. Our parents, they work hard so that they could leave something to us. We work hard so we can leave something to the next generation. So when any property that you have prior to marriage is called separate property. Generally, any property that you have or obtain after marriage will be marital property. Now, one of the things that I have to do is put this disclaimer that this is not legal advice. Each case is very case specific. I would need to know the specific facts for your case to provide legal advice. So I'm just speaking in generalities. So
we got that covered in our introduction.
Okay, very good, very good, very good. So you have separate property, which is anything that you have prior to getting married. And then you have marital property, which is generally anything that you accumulate while you're married.
Okay. Now, is separate property also premarital property? Is that another term for it, or are those different?
Yeah, it's about the same. Premarital property, separate property. Yes, they're classified as premarital or separate properties. And they're interchangeable.
Okay.
So now, in what situations can a person, you have this premarital property, how can it become marital property? What are the things people need to consider?
2 words: co-mingling. Co-mingling. Keep your items separate. So we have situations where you have a house. Your spouse may have a house, may not have a house, but you guys decide, hey, your house is closer to work. Let me move in with you. Or your house has more square footage. Let's move in. And if you are not careful, that separate property that belongs to you can quickly be converted into marital property based upon commingling of funds. So now, as we talked about before, you might think, well, that's not fair if they can come in and just, it's their property as well. So what a judge would look at during the equitable distribution is what did you do to increase the value of that particular property? So most likely you see this with improvements.
Right.
So you come in and, it's a little dated. You have 2 incomes now. Let's go ahead. Let's get this kitchen redone. Let's add a covered porch. Those types of things that add value to a home, that's when you're looking at commingling of funds and whether or not there will have to be a finder of fact to determine whether or not it remains separate property or if it's marital property. Now, it's not just all or nothing. What they would look at is the increase in value based upon what your contribution was to the separate property. So say for instance, you move in, if you got lucky and you moved in 2008, 18 with your spouse, or 2020 with your spouse. Well, in 2021, that property value jumped up $200,000. And you're thinking, I cashed in. No, that would be considered separate property still, and any increase in value would be attributed to that particular spouse as separate property. However, if you get the kitchen redone, you get new hardwood floors, you get the soaking tub in the bathroom, and that increases the value of the property, then that increase could be considered separate property. And there you've just converted your separate property to marital property. Or at least there's a discussion as to whether or not the other person would have a claim to it.
Now, is that a claim to your house? Or is that a claim?
We were saying, is it the increase or is it the actual forecourt?
It's typically the increase.
Okay.
So now, one of the things that the easiest thing to do is have your things documented, because you would have the burden of proving that what that increase is.
Right.
And this is another thing about North Carolina. North Carolina they have a presumption that when you separate, any property that you own is marital property.
Oh, okay.
The person who is claiming that the property is separate property
has the burden.
They have the burden to overcome that presumption. So, if things go bad, the spouse, they're going to be like, yeah, that's marital. Give me half. And it will be your burden of proving that is separate. It will be your burden of proving, well, they did contribute to the new kitchen, but that only added $20,000 worth of value to my home versus they're claiming half of the home that might cost $500,000 and they're claiming $250,000. So it's very important that if you are in a situation where you do have separate property, that you make sure you don't commingle. And in the event that you do commingle, that you have it documented that the value of my property was this part. We put $20,000 in. The property value went up because of this. You have appraisal. So, but it is the spouse that the property the spouse that is claiming the separate property, they have the burden of proof. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
So does that work? So that's with the house. Does that work with pensions and 401ks? You come in with $250,000 in your 401k. We get married, getting divorced in 6 years, and that done went up to $500,000. Can I get half?
So a lot of times, I always tell my client, just think about what's fair. So a person has worked for 20 years. They paid into their retirement, their 401k. You guys are married for 2 years, and she starts taking off that makeup, and you like, what, this is not working. So it would not be fair for them to be entitled to the entire 25 years. So what the courts would look at is what were the contributions during those 3 years, and then they most likely would be entitled to a portion of that.
So if you wait a long time,
So and that's the other thing. The longer that you're
you never contributed to my 401k. That was my job.
Well, I gave you the ability to. I supported you in your endeavors. Maybe I stayed at home. Maybe who knows?
Yeah. And then you look at it as when you're married, your income becomes one. So that's why you got to be very marriage.
Here we go.
What did it say? We won.
Here we go.
That is the argument that when you're married, this is our money. And if you put in your little your
I'm being
contribution.
devil's advocate here. I totally believe that you're one. I'm just saying it's a lot. I just be thinking about all these military guys that had these nice pensions and investments, and they,
and that's the argument. That's the argument. You're taking our marital funds and you're diverting it into something, an asset.
Yeah.
And I'm entitled to that because this is our property. So they wouldn't be entitled to the entire amount, just the amount that they're married. And then some of the factors that the court they look at how long you've been married. A short marriage is typically under 5 years, and then maybe 5 to 15, 17, even some people say up to 25 years. That's a mid-range marriage. And you got to put in 25 years before you're looking at...
You're really getting paid.
Right. So I guess you earn it after 25 years, right?
You earn a lot of things.
You earn it. You earn it after 25
because think about it. At that point, I'm about to retire. Like, I'm not about to be back out here trying to make up that money.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So back to like I guess in both situations, so with the equitable distribution, does the court like force that separate property? Like they force a division of that property? Like they could make me sell my home in order to be able to pay the difference if I ain't got the cash sitting on the side?
Yeah. You have to, whatever the court orders, you have to, if they order you to pay, then you have to pay. And how you get to that point, they don't really care. They just want you. So if that means, unfortunately...
Do they have a payment plan? Is that a thing?
The court?
I'm just saying, if people pay alimony, that's basically a payment plan. Like, maybe you can have a payment plan.
Alimony is different from our separate property. Alimony is different. Alimony is in addition to...
Right.
I
guess I look at it as like it's a monthly stipend. So to me, could I not give you a monthly stipend for this separate marital property?
No, you're going to be refinancing that property and giving them that loan. So, unfortunately,
I tried, y'all. Y'all know I love a payment plan.
You do love a payment plan.
I do. It just is easier.
Yeah, it really is. So, and I always tell people, it's always better to have a say in what it is that your outcome. If you go to court, you don't have a say. The judge is going to order you. They're going to tell you what to do. So if you can work it out with the person, hey, we've been, it didn't work out. You're entitled to X amount. I can't pay this X amount. Let's set up a payment plan where I can pay it to you over a course of time. And they can sign that agreement, and that is enforceable.
But they have to agree.
They have to agree. So
which in a divorce is highly unlikely.
Yeah, I always try as much as possible because you want to make sure that you have this is your time to have a say in the outcome. Otherwise, you don't. A lot of my work, the work that I do is drafting separation agreements. And even though it might take a lot of time and a lot of back and forth, once you have the separation agreement, then it can list out all those things that a judge would decide. It could address alimony. It could address separate marital properties. We're talking about assets because we're up.
Right.
But there's also debt you have to think about as well.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
But basically, if you go into it thinking that let's do what's fair.
Yeah.
Then, it's always easier when you have a say in it versus having someone else. Because then whatever they say is what it is.
So speaking of this say, is there any documentation? Because Quick and I think one of our first episodes on YouTube was prenups. Because we both have zero issue with prenup. But... because I mean, to your point, it's a contract. I put whatever I want in here as long as it's legal, for the most part.
Whatever we want.
I mean,
yeah. Continue.
My question is, are there other because for some, prenup has this just negative connotation. So is that the only way before marriage, or the only kind of document to kind of protect some of this stuff? Like, is there other things like, I don't know, like would a free trader do the same thing, or?
So that's outside of my wheelhouse.
Okay.
I'm not very familiar with that. But the vehicle.
That's what the estates lady was talking about, like with like so like when you're married you have to sign off on property kind of situations, but free trader you could move like you were single. In terms of like, I guess like if you were selling the house or refinancing, you don't need my signature. So I didn't know if that covered like
that's
free trader.
the free trader. Let me write that down. You just taught me something today.
the free
Gotta
trader
go back
agreement.
and listen to that episode.
I was listening, girl. I was like, what you
Free
and what else I
trader.
need to do?
Huh.
That's good because it's important to know the vehicle that I most utilize
Is the
is a
prenup.
prenuptial
Okay.
agreement. And generally, whatever you all agree on can go into a prenuptial agreement, but there are some things that don't go in a prenup that people don't understand. Again, looking at fairness. If a person is under duress, then a prenuptial agreement might not be enforceable. So, look, our wedding is next week. You either sign this or you don't. If you sign that, then there could be a claim to invalidate the prenuptial agreement. You can't have gender roles in a prenup. That is also, in North Carolina, that's also void or voidable, which means you would have to ask the court to void it. So if you say, all right, so what I want you to do is I want you to wash dishes every morning before I leave out, or you have to wash the windows. Those types of things are not enforceable in an agreement. And then anything related to children, child support. Right. That's one of those gender roles type. That's not going to be enforceable generally, and that's known as, it's called unconscionable. So just things that, again, just kind of to make it easy, fairness. You can't force someone to be your sex slave, your maid, they're your spouse. So those types of things, and then anything dealing with children, whether it be child support, whether it be custody arrangements, the courts always look at the best interest of the children. So that's typically invalid in a prenuptial agreement, and if it goes against the standard of what's best for the children. So those are some things. And the number one reason that I've seen prenuptial agreements be invalidated is failure to disclose. So you have to make sure that you disclose everything so that the person, your potential spouse, is informed, and they have informed consent. They are going into the agreement knowing everything, knowing the full picture. And then the last thing is to make sure that both potential spouses, they get their own attorneys to review it. I don't, you come to me and I say, bring, your potential wife or husband in, and I draft it, I go over it, I have them sign it. I always tell them that they need to go obtain counsel to look at it in order, because that's the final step to make sure it's not invalidated.
Now, when you say fully disclosed, like when you say everything, is that
everything? So
every bank account we got to go through?
Every bank account.
Everything that would be on the table if you had to go to court.
There you go. And then you think that you don't,
I'm just taking it in.
Everything, and you think that, hey, I'm going to forget that. Even if they in discovery, you'll be surprised at what people find. So you
I
have
forgot
to
about that offshore house.
Right. You have to disclose everything, and that's one of the major reasons why prenuptial agreements are unenforceable.
Trying to hide them assets.
I was just asking because people have a strong reaction to the prenup. So I was like, maybe there's another way they could call it something else to get what they want. But y'all gonna have to get that prenup that we talked about. So
it's it's sad to say, because when you go into marriage, you do think it's going to be forever. So you really don't want to think about it. But it's kind of like estate planning. No one wants to think about death or but it's better to address it in the beginning so that things go smoothly, because once emotions become involved, then things derail very quickly.
I feel like that's what it is. It's like a form of estate planning, honestly.
Right. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
And so she had mentioned alimony. You said that those were different from equitable distribution. So can you talk in North Carolina about, I don't know, do they still call them the heartburn actions? Are those still even valid in North Carolina?
They are. They are.
So talk about
That's
that.
a factor.
And then I know you can't negotiate about sex, like how many times you got to do it. But can you negotiate in your prenup if you cheat, then I won't give you out? Like, can you say, I don't care what the laws of North Carolina are, but if this happens, we just go our separate ways?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
so you can negotiate that and then talk about the hardball match.
Right. So you have alimony is a type of spousal support. So say, for instance, let's talk about in prenuptial agreements, you see it all the time. You see it in the media, cheating, infidelity, certain things that just kind of, if that happens, then this happens. Those are typically enforceable because even with the court, if you don't agree, if you have to go and ask for it with the court, cheating, infidelity, that is a factor that the court uses in determining alimony and how much. Yeah. So just be very careful and kind of keep it separate bank accounts, separate, just keep it separate.
So on the flip side, for the person that is moving in, whether that be her moving in with him moving in with her, how can they protect their interests? Because, I've been in the situation where, it was, I've been in this situation. I've heard about situations. Like a lot of times guys don't want to move in with the female, right? Because they feel like they're losing their interest. They're losing, they don't have the control over anything. Like it's just, it's hers, you know what I'm saying? So how can that person protect their interests if they are doing like upgrades? Because you don't want to feel like, I don't know. You don't want to feel like your only investment is going to come if you get a divorce.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Like,
it's not going to be until that time that I feel like this is mine. So how can they protect their interests, if they don't want to have to go through forcing the sale of a person's home?
Right. It's about just having a conversation. So if you can have hey, I'm going to move in. We're going to move in together. We're going to upgrade the house and things like that. Since this is our, can I just be added to the deed? Yeah, since it's our house, you're putting money into it. It's going to be ours. Just add me to the deed. It's about conversation. It's about understanding. You can be added to. So if a spouse that has separate property, say for instance, if you move into that separate property, you all make it the marital home, they can add you to the deed. So that's one of the surefire ways to make sure that the person that's moving in, the person that's also investing in by whether it be financially, whether it be helping the rent, making sure the mortgage is paid and upkeep and maintenance, all that kind of stuff. That's the easiest way to do it, but just keeping track.
What's the more difficult?
Not moving in and not doing that. That's the most difficult.
That's the most difficult. Okay, we got the ranges. Easy. Most difficult. Don't do nothing.
That's
put me on the deed.
Because you're right. You do want to, I'm looking at it from the person that's coming in.
It's still an investment.
It's still an investment. You want to make sure.
It's thousands of dollars of an investment.
Right.
Especially talking about remodels and stuff.
And just talk about it.
He said what?
Back to these four corners. What is this deed?
That's
always messing me up on these four corners.
Wait, you mean if the deed is in?
I'm back to
this. Well, the deed is a contract too. So.
Right, so I'm back to this prenup. Like if I put you on a deed, like we married and this is our home.
That's definitely going to avoid the part in the prenup.
Because that's a
separate contract.
That's an agreement that's documented.
I like it. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I was supporting you on like this is ours, and how do I make you feel like?
So you won't want to put them on the deed. Thank you. Okay.
Good episode.
But if you love me,
but you love me. So my thing is this:
you don't ask us questions like that on the
show. Listen. We bring ourselves to the table.
Right.
My thing is this, and they have their own too. So my thing is like at a certain point, we will get something together. So I am very much a person like, yes, the things that we develop together, yes, we were shooting in the gym.
Right.
But these other things, no, I'm not interested in like
getting his house or him getting.
No, I'm not on either side. So for me, it's like true to your point. If we move in either house, I don't want it to be like, oh, this your house, this your whatever.
Right.
But I also like these two are separate. Now, what we do forward, cool.
Right. So. Just make sure that you think about that when it comes to money being invested, time being invested. You know, make sure you pay them for it. And I have seen people do that. They pay them for their service.
He's gonna send me a bill.
Right. And then, you know,
he's gonna send the invoice.
And you can pay it different ways. But anyway, you know, just so you can just kind of think about that, because you're right. Let's keep this. But then just make sure that in order to make sure your interests are protected, you have to have documentation.
Yeah.
You have, and just turn it down. Just, you know what, I'm good. Don't worry about it. I'll get somebody, Mr. So-and-so, to come out and fix it. Don't worry about it. You good. You don't got to worry about it, baby. Go play golf or something like that. Because when Bae starts coming over there tinkering around, then, you know, hopefully they wouldn't be petty. Right. Because that's petty. But then you know how to get
people
back.
Mad.
When people mad, when people get back, you go low.
That's the fan I put in y'all.
Right. Give me my fan. Right.
They sure will.
Good gracious.
But it again, even worst case scenario, they would only be entitled to the improvement. So take your little raggedy fan, but I'm not having to sell my house in order to, you know, you can say that. Guess what? I'll go. People are really petty.
They are.
People are petty. I want give them a sit, you know.
They are, for sure.
Petty. You'd be surprised.
Especially if you love it.
Right.
That's your favorite.
That's what I really want.
You like that country sink?
Yeah.
Die crazy.
That is mine.
Yeah. They get real petty, man. Yeah.
Just documentation. And that's in anything in life. Document. Because you just want to have a record, and it'll make your life easier versus having to go back 3 years, 10 years, 15 years to try to figure out who did what.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like people are always like, marriage is a business. Marriage is a business when it benefits them to say marriage is a business. But when you actively start treating it like it, then it's offensive. Right?
I don't
understand. Because if you was going anywhere else to any other business, if you was starting a new job, you know how much stuff you got to sign to start a new job to make sure.
And they let you know exactly.
That's right.
It is no problem. You don't think about it. I want the job, right? So I want these upgrades. Let's sit down. Here's a documentation that says, you know, this is what you invested. I got an Excel spreadsheet. You invested this amount. I invested this amount. In 5-10 years, if it increased, we could have that in an Excel. That's what we could present. You get the increase. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't be offended.
It's mature. It's
got
maturity.
An unofficial prenup. Look at you.
It's not an unofficial. That's just documents. That's like, my daddy did it to me.
It's a workaround. It's
that's
like
my daddy.
It's a workaround. She
like,
gonna
look. I was up here 4 days in this hot sun for Fayetteville.
She gonna print
I
it
could
out.
have been working this amount of days making this.
Exactly. I mean, and people, get out your feelings.
Get out your feelings.
He counted time this.
But then he was Mr. Quick.
But that's really
he taught me well.
And it's a, you know, don't be so offended.
Yeah.
I mean, as you get older, I got married when I was younger, but it would definitely be, love you, Mark. It would be different. It will be very different now. It'll be different.
Sure.
It'll be different.
Absolutely. Coming in with all these laundromats. You talking about, I just love you, let's get married. No.
Before another quarter go in one of the machines. Let's talk about this.
Okay. So you can be talking about that quarter about these dryers.
And then another, but we won't get into this because it's probably another rabbit hole, but even once you're older, you have children.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? And you know, so there's,
and I think that's a lot of the reasons why we talk about protecting your assets. You know, I mean, of course, you work hard, even if you never have any children. If you work hard to establish assets, you want to protect them. But definitely in the situations where, you know, maybe you're the only responsible sibling and you got nieces and nephews you want to take care of. You know, like when you're talking about leaving an inheritance, you want to be able to protect that thing, right?
Exactly.
And if you're with someone that understands that, then they're probably like-minded and want to protect and leave an inheritance for theirs as well. You know, so I don't feel like it should have to be this controversial thing. It doesn't mean I'm giving a prenup. That means you're thinking about divorce.
Right.
No, I just do contracts.
It's something that because I'll give a personal example. We have family property where I'm from in Apex, North Carolina. And so all my family, they live in a circle. My grandmother basically gave my uncle a piece of property, and then he got married. And he and his wife, they built a house on the property. My uncle had a heart attack and passed away, and she was out of there in, I don't even know how, she was out of there in like 60 days. I mean, it was just, and so now what my grandmother worked hard for is gone because it was marital. It was marital property, and
because they built the home on it.
Because they built the home on it when my grandmother. So, and she should have done things. She could have given her a life estate. She could have done different things to make sure that the property stayed in our family. And now, because he had kids that were not part of the marriage, and that was their inheritance, and she's gone. So, it's important when you build legacies that you think about that type of thing and think about how marriage can affect it. Because, you know, once the law, I mean,
so how does that work? Like, I mean, it's a different segue from divorce because those, you know, people, that's not what happened. It was death in that situation. It wasn't a divorce. But like, how does that work if one person has the land? I've never done anything with it, and then I meet someone and we build a property on it. Do you have access to the land and we have access to the house? And I can, like, I mean, because you really can't pull the house up off the land. So how does that really work?
Right. I'm a big fan of the life estate as well.
Okay.
And then it would kind of what we've talked about now. You would look at the value of the land versus the property. She could have, you know, that she could have had things, who she could have sold it to could have been part of the covenant. You know, when my grandmother,
for the land, like you're saying, the life estate that they made could have protected.
So
she didn't have a life estate.
I know, but
she didn't have one.
In the ideal situation,
right?
She would have gave a life estate to the land.
She would have given. Well, she would have given. So it was my uncle's property. So she gave the property to my uncle.
A house or the land?
The land. Okay. Well, there was a house on it, but then they.
Okay.
So when they build a house on it, he should have given her a life estate because it's his property.
He should have gave the wife.
The wife.
Gotcha.
Yeah. He should have given the wife a life estate because it goes back to what you're talking about. You know, from her perspective, it's like, well, I'm investing in this and things like that. The issue was we wanted to make sure how it could stay in our family because it's what my grandmother wanted.
Right.
However, because it passed, they were both on the deed and it's hers and she did what she wanted to do with it.
So that is a stranger in y'all family property.
Yeah. So
the circle's broken.
The circle
so she could have gave, I don't know if I would have signed a life estate to the house I'm building though.
Well, most people don't think about a life estate. Most people don't know that's a thing like we do.
But you can have restrictions. You can have restrictions of who it needs to. She could have put it in a trust. There are different. So the things that we learned from that, and we're kind of implementing that for the rest of, you know, for the rest of.
Yeah, we got to talk about that because I know that situation is. I mean, it's like you said, it's too late now.
Right. Yeah.
But there's got to be some protections in place.
There has to. Right. Yeah. Right. The things you don't think about, you know, nobody thought about it. Nobody thought about it.
Yeah, I just don't know that you can make me do anything besides a full deed to a house that I'm building, help build.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to. You wanted to move that. Never mind. Move it. What's next?
What's the next topic?
Look, still a sore.
See?
Still a sore.
It got personal.
It got personal.
I mean, you know, it's something to think about.
It is
something to think about.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, that's a. I got family going through it right now. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The same situation, girl. I had a whole bunch of property. Didi did to a child, and he passed away. She was still living there, and she just left. Like, I don't want to live here no more.
But she didn't sell it.
Well,
At least it's still.
so she left, and now she's passed away. Now the kids are coming in like, that was mama house.
Yeah.
Give us that property.
Oh, her kids.
Yeah.
See, that's why I'm a fan of that life estate. You know how I feel about stranger people.
But I mean, who can make you that?
Yeah. And the way you deed the property too is important as well. Whether it's not in tenants in common, so you got to do your stuff.
I refuse to leave. I refuse to leave my house to the new wife. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, you got to think about that now. Yeah. New wife is not.
Yeah, you got to live
related to her
at all, or her children.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things to think about, things to do.
So
y'all
get it done.
Get it done.
Combine
get
this
attorney.
episode, y'all, with our other.
No, you fine. It's fine. Yeah. It's real. Those are real life situations that you have to think about, though. Because like I said, people always want to think that it's just between two people, but sometimes this affects families, generations. On both sides. On both,
right.
So
Well, y'all make sure y'all combine this episode with our protecting your assets estate planning. Like the two kind of coincide. And just do what's best for you. There's multiple ways to skin this cat.
Right.
And actually, where can the people find you? Because they might need help skinning that cat.
Yes. So you can reach me. Look, I was about to say on Instagram, but I don't have an Instagram. So just call me. Our office number is 704-519-0765. www.sanderslawnc, like NorthCarolina.com. And my email address is rSanders@sanderslawnc.com. And I'd love to help you.
And of course, we'll have her information in the show notes. We really, really appreciate you coming into the studio and giving the people some information, because it's so important. Y'all hear it. Do the things. Do the things. Take action. Because to know and to not do, it's just.
And you what you said kind of just don't take it personal.
Yeah,
don't take it personal.
And
just get it done.
Yeah, because I mean, again, hopefully you're getting with someone that's like-minded, so they got some things they need to protect too.
Right.
So yeah, do the things. Take action. Take action. Take action.
Yes.
And where can they find us at?
You can find us on Instagram and Facebook under Divas and Ducats. Our website, www.divasandducats.com. And our email is divaadvice@gmail.com. That is divaadvice@gmail.com. All right, y'all. Take care. In the meantime, in between time.
Have a great attitude, y'all. Take care.
Bye.